this side of the camera. Anne is here. Say hi, Anne. Anne is actually behind the camera today because it's book week. And so we are going to do something completely different. You know, How to Cook That is normally crazy sweet creations, all sorts of, geeky kind of cooking and sciencey stuff, fantastic. Today, we're going to do something completely different, and it's actually, there's not that many things on this earth that are my forte as opposed to Anne's, but this is probably one that I'm a little bit more of an expert than my dear wife, Anne. So Anne's going to be here. She's going to be answering some questions in the stream, and then maybe at the end she might kind of call out some questions as well.
I might interrupt too. Luda says, can you tell Dave that he's an amazing author?
Oh, Luda, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yes, we actually did earlier this week, we put up Ask for Questions on the community tab on our channel, and so people were writing in questions. That just helps because when the live stream's on, as you know, those comments just whiz past at 1,000,000 miles an hour. So we wanted to get some really good questions and hopefully have some answers. So what we're talking about today is how to write compelling stories. Now, if you're just a mad keen baker and that's all that you're interested in, awesome. You can watch, you can enjoy. But obviously, there's 3 million subscribers out there, and thousands, if not tens of thousands of them, love writing, love reading, love books. They've all got favorite books. Maybe you're one of the many people who, over the last couple of years, you've journeyed with us as we wrote my book, The Deep Enders, and 30,000 people wrote in and with suggestions and contributions and what this character should wear and what the villain's name should be and where the main protagonist should be from, what nation. So we had so many people just contributing. So it really has been part of How to Cook That over the last couple of years, and it's been a lot of fun. Of course, The Deep Enders is now out, been out for around about a year or so, and it's done fantastic. Thanks to everyone. And so today I want to, just for the next sort of 10, 15 minutes, take you through just some tips, I guess, on how to write really compelling stories, how to improve your writing. So maybe you're a school student and you're thinking, I'm not much of a writer, I'd like to get better. I hope this helps. Maybe you're somebody that, you've been sort of starting to think about it. Maybe you could be a writer. And again, I really hope maybe you're a fantastic writer already and, you're just going to hopefully nod along and say that's good advice, or you can write in the comments that's bad advice, and that's okay as well because this is YouTube, you're allowed to do that. So when I go around to schools and I go to writers' festivals and that sort of stuff, sometimes I'll do a presentation a little bit like this and I'll talk about how to improve your writing. And of course, the first thing that I always do is introduce, hey, I'm Dave Reardon, and part of what I do is write, and part of what I do is I work on the channel with my wife Anne on How to Cook That. And you always see raised eyebrows, people saying, how does a cooking channel work with writing? And of course, part of it is because our audience are readers. People who watch How to Cook That also read. And then I tell them about how we did all the contributions, all that fun stuff. And I show them some clips and they always love and go, oh, and they get really excited about the cooking. And then we kind of kick on to the rest of it. So I'll skip that bit because I assume you guys are on How to Cook That. You understand how awesome Anne is at doing incredible creations, just unique, fantastic stuff. So I don't need to spruik that anymore, right? You get that bit? The first thing that I wanted, I'd love to know maybe actually comment in the comments here. Tell me your favorite book. And it's always fantastic when I'm in a school, there's always hands that go up and people saying this book and that book, and a 13th Story, a Treehouse, or a Weirdo is another famous one here in Australia, great book. They love a bit of John Green, TFIOS. Which, John Green, fantastic, also fellow YouTuber and great author. These are a couple of my absolute favorite books. There's The Life of Pi by Yamatel. Just an incredible book. They turned it into a really lovely movie, beautifully done actually, the movie. But the book was just mind-blowing. It was just one of those ones that started out a little bit slow, and I was thinking, is it a bit ponderous and a bit philosophical? And then sort of, it's got a great line in there where it says everything was normal and then normal got weird. And that's exactly what happens. Everything flips over and then it flips back in a crazy way at the end. It was just, it was shocking, and I really loved it. The other one of mine, and this is absolutely one of my favourites, is The Power One by Bryce Courtenay, who's was an African-born author who became an Australian, lived most of his life here, was a lawyer, and then went into writing later in his life. He's sadly passed away now. But just a gorgeous book, and it really captures some of the era of World War II, some of the racism that followed in South Africa. Just as I sat down to write The Deep Enders over a couple of years, I found that again and again the themes of particularly The Power One were just coming through really strong in my writing, and I would never supposed to say that I'm anywhere near as good a writer as Bryce Courtenay, Yamatel, but some of the themes that they were covering and that they were picking up, as some of their turn of phrase, I guess, were things that hopefully were able to influence me to become a better writer. As I was preparing The Deep Enders, I was doing a lot of research. I went up to the town of Broome, little pearling town, exotic pearling town, that for a short period of time, for about a week in 1942, was actually the nexus of the Pacific War, which is hard to believe because it's this gorgeous little town. But there were so many refugees, thousands and thousands of refugees coming down out of Indonesia into Australia, escaping as the enemy sort of closed in, as the Japanese war machine came from Pearl Harbor, then through Singapore, bombed Darwin, the Dutch East Indies, which is now Indonesia, and then towards Australia. And so it was this incredible, tense, passionate, dangerous time for the whole world. And we find this tiny little town where, interestingly, about a third of the population were Japanese pearl divers. So you have this fascinating sort of melting pot of cultures, some Australian Aboriginals, some Caucasian folks, and then about a third Japanese pearl divers. And so you've got all this internal conflict as well as all the external pressures coming on. And as I was researching, I came across these great books. But I didn't want to write a history book because, let's face it, those books have been written, they're good, and sometimes most people find them quite dry. I wanted to write a book that young people would pick up and read, learn something about history, but learn something about the human condition, friendship beyond race, and really things that I think are really pointed and telling and important more than ever for us today on Earth. And so we wrote it with a lot of humour, wrote it with your contributions, and we had a lot of fun doing it. And the feedback has been, people love it, people laugh, people cry, people laugh and cry together sometimes. And I think they're laughing at the right moments. I think they're crying at the right moments. So we've probably had a win there. So that's been good. And right now I'm going to show you the book trailer. If you haven't seen it, watch along. Hope you enjoy it. Have you seen it? Enjoy as well. Okay, so that's the Deep Enders book trailer. A friend Mark and I, we worked on that together, and I think it turned out okay, so we're pretty proud of that. Right now I want to go to something called the creative process, and just for a couple of minutes I want to give you some practical tips on how to improve your writing, how to understand that your writing is getting better, and how to know that you're on your way. Number one is just to figure out the difference between a story and a plot. I guess the big difference, if you all boil it down, is a plot, something that is compelling, that makes you want to read more. It has this question in it of why. It's asking the question of why. It's telling why this thing is happening, as opposed to a story, which is somebody moves from point A to point B. And you sort of get this maybe when you get home from school and you don't feel like talking necessarily to your mum, and mum says, what happened today? Oh, not much. This thing happened, that thing happened. You're just kind of giving a bit of a shorthand summary of what happened today. But of course, if something hilarious happens, maybe you tell the story and you're giving a bit of context, you're telling the why, and you're adding some roadblocks along the way. And that's one of the big things in writing a really compelling story is to answer why these things are happening. The second thing is character development. Growth in your characters is interesting. So if your main character is a good guy who starts out as a good guy, and in the middle of the story he's a good guy, and at the end of the story he's a good guy, and he likes a good girl, and at the middle of the story she's a good girl, at the end of the story she's a good girl. It's kind of like we're just going linear and it's a bit dull. Next one, mix it up, surprise your readers. I was listening to an author talk recently and he said whenever he gets bored he decides just to kill someone. Sounds pretty bad, right? I think he means on the paper, right? So he decides, well, if it's boring, I'll just kill someone off. And then, I sometimes wonder whether John Green does this because, people always die in his books. And it's probably why people love his books so much. It's compelling. It's like, oh, you never know who's going to make it through to the end of the story. And the last thing is pressure is good. I've talked about this a little bit already about roadblocks and about, having obstacles in the way that make the story more interesting. Here's a little clip. Our boys recently on their YouTube channel, Reardon Bros, they decided to make the world's greatest milkshake, and they got Nutella and they got chocolate bars and they put it in the milk, and then they thought the wonderful ingredient would be put in a large block of dry ice and put the lid on. Well, of course, anybody who's done high school science will know that dry ice in a contained container is a recipe for disaster. So enjoy this.
I put my hands up in my ass and bouncing arrows. Finally, for the ingredients, we're going to put in a dryer. All the dry ice is doing with this milkshake is just making it really thick. So now put the lid on. And now blend.
So obviously that was a couple of years ago. The boys have grown up a lot since then, and they probably won't do that again. But it was a lot of fun. It was a mess to clean up, but it was a lot of fun on video. Hope you enjoyed it. So pressure is good. Pressure is good when it comes to your story. Adding pressure, adding tension, adding conflict. It's the sort of things that all the things that we don't want in our life, we do want in our stories because they make it much more interesting. Okay, I'm going to finish with this. Here are just some really simple tips on how to bring your writing to life. We might have a couple of questions after that, but just super shorthand. Here we go. Write something every day. Write down. Keep a notepad. Write something. Even if it's a sentence or a phrase or one line of a poem, or you heard something interesting on the radio, or you heard something interesting on Netflix or TV, and you just, oh, that was cool, and write that down. And then you've just got this whole stockpile of interesting thoughts and facts and figures for when somebody says, hey, or when you feel inspired even to write next. You've got a whole bunch of things that you can go and access. Avoid stereotypes. You've ever read a book that said, she didn't know it yet, but she was the chosen one? You ever read that book? Yeah, you read it a dozen times, right? 20 times. Try to avoid stereotypes. How many chosen ones can there be? I'm not sure. How many... Yeah, right, Disney, yeah. How many love triangles can there be? Sometimes it doesn't have to be a love triangle. I'm just saying, no criticism, but just saying. Give it time and take feedback on board. When I finished The Deep Enders, after 2 years of writing pretty solidly, and I really thought I had something that was pretty good, but you never know. So I sent it off to somebody who was the book reader. That was their job. They were a book reader at one of the world's biggest production houses for films. And I was really nervous, and I thought this could be really soul destroying. And she contacted me about 2 weeks later and said, "Hi Dave, I read your book." And I was like, "Okay, what do you think?" She goes, "I love it. Fantastic, wonderful, incredible storyline, brilliant characters, wonderful." I'm like, "Yes, this is so good." And then she goes, "But." I'm like, "No but. What? No but. Please." And she says, but a lot of readers are female, and your main female protagonist doesn't appear in the book until about chapter 7. And I'm just not sure that some people are going to make it to chapter 7 without the appearance of Mickey. And so I was like, oh no, come on, what do you know? Come on, you don't know what you're talking about. And then I realised she's the book reader for one of the world's biggest movie production houses. She probably does know what she's talking about. And so I took 12 months to rewrite and rejig the whole story to really push Mickey right to front and centre of the story. And if you have the deep enders, you will know right now that the first word of the first chapter right at the start of the book is Mickey, because it was good advice. It wasn't personal advice. So when your teacher writes a C or a D on your writing piece and you take it personally, when mum or dad say, I didn't understand it, they're not having a go at you. They're not criticising you. They're saying, you can do better. We believe in you. You can do better. And so I think if you take some of these ideas, you actually can be a much better writer. Some of you will be tremendous writers. So take it, keep going, don't give up, and have fun with it. We got any questions, Anne?
Yeah, I think you kind of answered this one, but Daedric Blade wants to know how long does it take to write a book?
Okay, well, yeah. I think the Maze Runner, Dashner, he wrote the Maze Runner in like a summer holiday from memory. That's the story I read. So he wrote it maybe in 3 months, 4 months.
Do you think he really did, or that's just a story?
I think he was an amazing writer, and he probably had the skeleton of the story, and he really sat down and nutted it out. But then they have editors, they have a lot of people. So it takes time between the writing process and the publishing process is often 12 months, sometimes longer. For me, I did it while I was holding down, a couple of other jobs. And so I did it part-time, and it took me 2 years, and it took me another year. So it really took me 3 years, and we had all those contributions from you guys as well that we worked in, and we had to change Murph's nationality. Started out as an Australian, flipped to an American, actually turned the story into a much bigger and wider and more enjoyable story. So thanks everyone who voted for him to be from the US.
Andrea wants to know, how do you get over the nerves of actually starting a book when you've got an idea in your head but you've got nothing on the page yet?
I think so how do you start? I think you just have to get your fingers out, just going. Just write a sentence that you like, write a couple of lines, write the description of a character. There's so many ways that you can get around kind of that nerves. You shouldn't be nervous ever about writing. You can be nervous about writing and showing it to someone, but don't be ever nervous. I've got another book fully written, 100% written. But it's not published, and it probably won't be published unless I do about a year of work on it. It's because I'm nervous, because I don't think it's good enough. So yeah, just get going, get cracking on it, and don't be stressed if show it to some people. They might go, oh, it's pretty good, it's not that good. It's all right. Everybody's got to start somewhere.
All right, That's My Life has a few things here. First thing, she says the book is incredible, amazing writing, she loves it. Then she wants to know, what's your favourite part of the writing process, and how do you come up with original characters and plot lines?
Wow, that's a big question. What's my favourite part of the writing process? Is finishing. That was definitely my favourite part. Getting the book in my hand was so awesome.
Not the writing process.
No, it's not the writing process. You know what? I do love the writing process. I like going to libraries. I went to libraries and cafes, and I wrote down the river. I wrote down at the beach with my laptop. I enjoy playing with words. I think my favourite part of the writing process, though, is when you just start to see the pieces falling into place, and you start to see, the villain's motivation suddenly becomes crystal clear, and it all makes sense. And then you see, somewhere down the track that the big twist, how it links back here and how you can work it in. So it's like putting together a 5,000 piece jigsaw puzzle. And towards the end of a jigsaw puzzle, when you start to go faster and faster and faster because you only got about 50 pieces left, that's really fun because you feel like you're winning. Yeah.
I always start a jigsaw puzzle doing the edgy pieces. What would the edgy pieces be in writing?
Oh, good question. Good question from Anne Reardon. What would the edges of the jigsaw puzzle? I think your plot is, your general big picture items in your plot, your time frame, your location, and then your central character. You've got to know what sort of book you're writing as well. Like, you're writing a serious drama, or you're writing something with lots of humor in it. You're writing a history piece. You're writing a dystopian, kind of teenagey future sort of thing. What are you writing? And then I'd read a lot of stuff around that and go, okay, I now get it. I get the feel for it. I know what to write, but I also know what's been written. And that's really important, not just to copy other books or other stories, because everybody kind of sees through it. So for me, as soon as I had Murph, and as soon as I had Banjo, our Indigenous kid, and as soon as I had Mickey, it was like the story almost unfolded. That it was a great sense of fun of taking these kids through a whole bunch of adventures. Having them confront racism, having them confront their own stuff, having them confront World War II. So there was a whole bunch of stuff, and it was really just a case of you got to take time and write it well. And then once you think you're finished, go back and rewrite it again, and go again. Yeah.
Ada wants to know, how do you come up with a story that's not predictable? So obviously you're saying don't copy what's already out there and everything, but how do you actually come up with something that's not predictable?
Yeah, it's a really good question. How do you come up with something that's not predictable? It can be tough because so much has been written and you haven't read it all, and I haven't read a fraction of it. Just make sure that the characters, I think for me, I drew on people that I knew. So Anne and I used to work a lot with Indigenous kids, like for years and years. And we always found Indigenous kids, Aboriginal kids, were cheeky and fun and loud and a joy to have around. I mean, there was some naughtiness, there was some chaos in some of their backgrounds. But when I read stories or watch movies with Indigenous kids, it was always tragic. And it really annoyed me that the only representation we ever saw on film, or the only representation we ever saw on paper, in books, was tragedy. And I thought, that's not the kids I knew. And so I drew a lot from kids that I'd known in our work before, and kids we'd come across. And so I pretty much knew I had an original character in Banjo because I was drawing from real life. I'm not to say other books haven't done that, but I just knew that mine was real as well. And so I wasn't copying anyone else. I was just coming from my own life. And I think the same with the other characters in the book as well. I was drawing a lot from people and characters and who I'd known, or as a journalist. I was a journalist for many years, and often up in the north of Australia, and coming across just bizarre characters and interesting people and thinking, they'll go in my book. That's a good story idea. So, yeah.
I've seen a publisher speak saying people shouldn't write from their own life because their own lives are generally boring. Being a journalist, you've had lots of good experience. So if they have a boring history, they don't know many interesting people, then how do they just got to come up with something creative and you make it up, or?
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely make up. You can definitely make stuff up. I also think I pick up stuff off newspapers, radio reports, listen to late night radio. I know that sounds crazy, but not FM radio. Go and find the old stations, talkback radio, and you will hear old folks, people in their 80s and 90s, talking about some of their experiences as kids that will blow your mind. Like, there's books out there. Now, I know everyone wants to watch YouTube these days, and we love it too, of course. But there's amazing books out there that will have a million ideas for you to take that idea and flip it into something that's fresh and new, and maybe even based in the future. It doesn't have to be based in the past. There's just a million ideas out there. So, read widely.
Two people have asked this, so I want you to come up with 2 points. What are the main things you have to have in a story to keep people reading it? So you already said pressure. Can you have 2 other things?
2 things to keep reading. You got to have love.
Pressure on you.
Okay, so yeah, pressure's number 1. So interestingly, when I wrote the first draft of The Deep Enders, I gave it to Anne, and she was involved the whole way along. And Anne said, it's great, I enjoy it, but I feel as though I finish a chapter and I don't feel as though I'm compelled to flip to the next chapter, because it's like the chapter's kind of finished. The argument's over, or the problem is done, or it's the end of a scene, like in a movie. So it's the end of a scene. And so I thought, okay, I got to rewrite that. I'm learning as I'm going. And so I started going, okay, I can't finish things all nice and neat. The other thing is I think write characters that are lovable or at least likable. So even your villains, one of the villains, I won't let too much out of the bag in case you haven't written it, but one of the villains is people just write in, I love this woman, I love this person. She is so enigmatic and so mysterious and so, like there's a richness to the character, even though she's ultimately a villain. And I think particularly Banjo Mickey, maybe a bit of romance. So one of the things they taught us as a journalist was you have to write for your audience. So you're not writing to be clever. You're not writing to be impressive. So I'm not a great writer of literature. I sort of wish I was, because I read those books and I'm pretty jealous. But I just know that I want to write to be read. And so the highest praise that I can get is not, oh, the prose was so wonderful. The highest praise I get is, which I get over and over and over and over again, is I don't read books. I don't read a lot of books, but I read your book right to the end and I really enjoyed it. And for me, that's just about it. Surely you write to be read. So, yeah.
Awesome. Last question, and then we'll wrap it up because we need to go.
Yep.
Miss Nerdy Everything is a young writer, and she said,
Cool.
How do I get my books noticed?
How do you
I get anyone to read it and know it exists?
Yeah. Look, it's. I think they said that there was, I don't know what it was, 20 million books or something published last year. It's incredible the amount of books out there at the moment. So getting noticed is really tough. One of the things just to do is make sure you get a website. It doesn't have to, don't have to spend a lot of money on it. Don't have to spend any money on it. Mine's on WordPress, right?
I've put a video on how to make a website.
we've got a video on how to make your own website. So get a website and just make it simple. But put up, if you've got a little bit of a book trailer that you've made, or if you've got a review, even in like a school magazine, or put up if you've got family members who review it on Goodreads or on Amazon, then put it up there. Good thought though. Make sure it's on Amazon for Kindle. It's free to put it up there. It does take a little bit of work, but I mean, I'm talking a couple of hours to get it up there. You can get it through Smashwords onto all the other sites as well, onto all the Apple site and onto Barnes & Noble and all those sort of things. So you can get your book out there. Whether people notice it, that is a tough thing. So have your website, have a Facebook page, use a little bit of Instagram without ever spamming. Don't spam. Do things tongue-in-cheek. So my friends, for instance, I might show you this picture. My friends back in Perth, old school friends, when they got the book, and they actually did enjoy it. I mean, this is maybe a very Australian sense of humour, but they took a whole bunch of photos of, with copies of the book, throwing the book into the river, using the book to balance up a wobbly table, getting their dog to read the book. So you know what? That just became good content for my Instagram, where I was saying, look what my mates thought of the book. And people had a good laugh with that sort of stuff. So you can do some things tongue-in-cheek without just going, buy my book, buy my book, buy my book. And the other main thing is just don't give up. So if you've written a book and it's not getting noticed, it's okay. It's still there. You can put it on Amazon. It can sit there for all time. Get cracking on your next book, because maybe your next one. I wrote my first book at least 8-9 years ago, still not published. And that's the one that I'm thinking I might need to spend a year on. And maybe I will publish it, but I just know in my heart of hearts that it's not really ready to go yet. But the Deep Enders worked hard on it, got to a point, press finish, it was ready to go.
I know I said that was the last question, but the very last question is, when is Deep Enders 2?
Deep Enders 2, yeah, okay. Back to the question about writer's block. No, Deep Enders 2 is roughly mapped out. There's a skeleton of it. I know where I want our characters to go. There's some beautiful kind of...
Don't give them away.
I won't get... There's some fantastic stuff to come. But I got to spend a year writing it. I have started, but I got at least a solid year ahead of me. And I'm not sure whether to write the sort of supernatural romance, supernatural romance, that sounds weird, right? But a supernatural romancy kind of one that I wrote 8 years ago. Do I need to spend a year on that? You can tell me. Or do you want the Deep Enders too? Tell me that. So up to you. Most votes wins. All right. I think that's it, right, hun?
Yeah, we're good to go.
We got to go. Thanks a lot for listening. This has been How to Cook That for Book Week. And we'll be back on Friday with another phenomenal creation by the amazing Anne Reardon. See you later.
And link below to the Deep Enders.
Oh, link below to the Deep Enders, all that sort of stuff. Okay.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.